Welcome, everyone. It is the second episode of Bottom of the Third. I'm Kirk Buchner, along with Jack Moore and Gill Florentino. We are the three people at the bottom of the third. I don't know if there's a joke there. That's not what I was going for, but here it is. Here we are here at notinhalloffame.com. Gentlemen, how are we?
Doing great.
I'm doing great. What's up to everybody, the viewing audience and listening audience? We ready to go?
All right. Well, we're talking baseball, and that's what we do every time we're here. And it's the amazing thing is, it may not be baseball weather, especially in the East Coast. Jack, are you going to be hit pretty hard?
My college, where I coach, we start tomorrow. We start the season. But I tell you what we're hearing in Virginia Beach, Virginia, tomorrow it's supposed to be like 53-ish, and we're going to play. And then Saturday, when we're supposed to play, the high is 29, and then the weather's coming. So I've heard predictions like from Richmond up for sure, could be 10 to 12 inches. Then again, maybe not. But the conditions are what what the Weather Channel's been saying for a few days is it could be a blizzard. It's gonna be pretty strong. We'll see, but it keeps fluctuating. But we will play tomorrow in our opening of our JUCO season, junior college season. And I think we're gonna catch a pretty good day. Today was in the part of Virginia I'm in was 60. So it was 60 today, but yeah, the temperatures, the precipitation's coming in, the temperature's going to plummet. So do the math. We're going to probably get snow. That's what we're looking for.
I don't miss that. From especially the last 2 years I was in Winnipeg.
I
Seattle
love snow.
better for that. Oh yeah, it's minus 40 right now apparently. Which I think minus 40 Celsius because I still think in Celsius. What that is in Fahrenheit, just effing cold.
You know, it's funny you say that because minus 40 is the one number where they're the same.
Oh, there you
Minus
go.
40 Fahrenheit and minus 40 Celsius are the same. It's from that point they diverge in different directions, but minus 40, it's funny that you use minus 40 because they're equal. That's the one place they're equal.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Sometimes every synergy happens by accident. But
we supposed to have pretty nasty weather here in Houston this weekend too.
Yeah,
what is it there?
Jack more, but
what is it there? What's it in Houston? 85 right now?
No, it's around 55.
Okay.
Wait. Gil, I'll have to tell you about snow tires, something you've never probably heard of.
Hey, hey,
he's been in other places.
I've been in a lot of places.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Oh yeah, but when you played winter baseball, you were actually not playing in the winter, like in the States.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
But
by the way, the Dominican Republic finals are going on right now between los Toros del Este and los Leones del Escogidos. And the Lions won last night. A pretty amazing game by a Junior Lake had a great game. Threw somebody at home plate and had a couple of RBIs. Junior Lake used to play for the Orioles, the Cubs, Nationals. Pretty good season out there.
And it's altogether possible that someone playing in this series might end up in the Baseball Hall of Fame one day. And see, I can do a segue. Look at that.
Yes, sir.
Baseball Hall of Fame made their announcement. We've got two new entrants, Carlos Beltrán and Andruw Jones. Beltrán, who I believe we're going to be seeing quite a bit of in the World Baseball Classic, as well with Andruw Jones, who I think is managing the Netherlands. Yes. Jones' entrance makes him the first player from Curaçao to enter the Baseball Hall, and these were the two that were long projected, so congrats to them both. There were some interesting things, though, that did occur on the ballot. The craziest one to me, Andy Pettitte went from the mid-20s to the high 40s. How did that happen? But before we get there, I want to get both of your reactions to the two new Hall of Famers and see what you're thinking with that.
Go ahead, Jack.
Now, Gil, I want to hear you first. Let me hear what you got to say first.
Andruw Jones, obviously, is somebody who I grew up watching, kind of not necessarily growing up outside of the game, but kind of, passing by. I saw him a lot of times, saw him play a lot. The interesting thing about the Hall of Fame today is, again, he's got elected in his 9th year, right? A guy who won 10 Gold Gloves, was an all-star, 5 different times, led the league in home runs, led the league in RBIs. Was an excellent center fielder. To me, probably the best defensive center fielder of his era, other than Ken Griffey Jr. But again, 10 Gold Glove, that's heavy. I would just still a little bit concerned about the fact that a guy like that with that kind of resume, 434 home runs and 10 Gold Glove, which it speaks to his defensive prowess, but also to his power and his speed. Because he has some stolen bases out there too a lot. So that he gets elected in the 9th year, and a guy like Carlos Beltrán gets elected in the 4th year. So, congratulations to them both. Honestly, still for me, the Baseball Hall of Fame, it's hard for me to congratulate 2 people that outfielders that are in the Hall of Fame, and perhaps again the best outfielder, maybe perhaps the best baseball player in the history of the game. It's not in the Hall of Fame, in Barry Bonds, but congratulations then to both. If I were to both of those guys, I probably would have got in only 1, not 2. I understand that Beltrán won 3 Gold Glove, and he's highly regarded. But at the end of the day, I probably would have picked Andruw Jones and not Beltrán.
So my take was, I go back to this kind of sniff test, I guess, for lack of a better term. My first real knowledge of Andruw Jones, I guess, was all of us. Like, he's 19, if I remember correctly, was 19 in the World Series, and he's hitting 2 bombs in like his first 2 appearances or something. I mean, it's right off the top.
I was sitting in this stand, sitting next to Halle Berry.
Wait, what?
Oh, not a bad seat in house there.
Yes, yeah. So she was, at the time, she was married to David Justice. And Jose Oliva and Marcus Grissom was playing in that team. They went to the World Series. So J.O., God rest his soul, was a good friend of mine and kind of got me tickets to the first 2 games of the series. And at the time, she was only known as the girl that was in Boomerang. Obviously, she was That's very much as she is at this point in time. But I was sitting obviously with the because Jose Oliva got me tickets. I was sitting on the section of the players for the Atlanta Braves
family. She clearly belongs in the Hall of Fame. Some Hall of Fame, yeah.
I figured you would say that, Jack.
Yeah, big fan, brother. Big fan. Okay, so I'm looking at the stats because I try to do the objective thing. I didn't feel either one of them, to be honest with you. Neither one of them struck me as like, oh, yeah, that guy's a Hall of Fame, getting back to that kind of gut thing. And I'm looking at, I think, part of the reason why. And I want to say this, love them both, glad both are in. I'm not opposed to them being in because they're clearly great players. But I'm looking right now at Andruw Jones. Atlanta 19, out of Atlanta at 30. 5 All-Star games over like a 7-year period. From 30 through 35, everything drops off tremendously. All the production offensively. I know he's one of the most elite outfielders of his era. Now, Kirk, you may speak to this more because I think you and some of your buddies have, kind of talked about this before. I don't really know anything about it other than it, I guess, is trying to bring all of these different type of Hall of Fame statistical analysis stuff, is they're trying to bring down to a workable number, a measurement of against everybody else.
Yeah.
So I looked at Black Ink, average Hall of Famer 27, Andruw Jones 10. Gray Ink, average 144. He's a 47. Average Hall of Fame monitor, 100, of course, is the average. He's a 109. Hall of Fame standards, average Hall of Famer is a 50. He's a 34. And then his center field WAR, he gets a 62.7. And the average is 71.2. So one of the 5 or 6 things I read off, I guess, one of 6, he kind of falls into that Hall of Fame, among the average people in it. So I looked up Beltrán as well. Beltrán, of course, his career is much longer. Jones played in 17 seasons. Beltrán played in 20? Okay, so he's in 20. Then again, just to go into this for whatever it's worth, because again, if you've got something that kind of can standardize a measurement of different players and different eras and all the rest, Beltrán on the black ink, average Hall of Famer again, 27. He's a 1. Then batting, 144 for gray ink. He's a 76. Hall of Fame monitor, likely Hall of Famer is 100. He's a 126. On the Hall of Fame standards, average Hall of Famer is a 50. He's a 52. So, and then the WAR, he's a 70.0 with a 71.2 being the average for a Hall of Famer. I love them both. I think they're great players. One thing that I think we're transitioning, maybe not out of, but I mentioned this before to you guys on the show. It just shows how different the world is. I'm working on a military base in the mid 80s, and a guy says, "Hey, who are the blank number of guys who've ever hit 50 home runs in a season?" Do you know what the number was?
15 or 50?
9.
Oh, 50. Okay, yeah.
What I'm saying, in the mid 80s, a guy says, "Hey, can you name the 9 guys in history that have hit 50 or more home runs in a season?" That's what it was in the 80s. And it was Mays and Mantle and Maris, of course, and it was Johnny Mize, it was Mel Ott, Jimmy Fox. It wasn't Ted Williams, it wasn't Hank Aaron. A lot of guys it wasn't, but there were only 50. Then Cecil Fielder did it and became number 10. And then George Foster was one of the originals. I mean, he was 1977. Then Brady Anderson had 51. Well, and right, Babe Ruth, of course. Yeah, Babe Ruth was one of the original 9. But my point is, at the time that this guy asked me the question in the mid 80s, there was only 9 guys in history that have hit 50 or more home runs in a season. Some of them had done it multiple times. As a matter of fact, at that time, Mays had been the youngest and the oldest to ever do it. He did it the youngest in a career and oldest. So my point is, now you got Beltrán and you've got Jones, 400 plus home runs. But what is that today compared to what it was? Because, like, I'm a Yaz fan, you know that. When Yaz went in or finished playing in 83, I guess he went in 87, 88, whatever it was, 5 years later, 88. He was the first guy in American League history to have 3,000 hits and 400 home runs. No one, Ted Williams didn't do it. Babe Ruth didn't do it. So some of those guys didn't have the 3,000. They had over 400 home runs. So that was a rarity. So Yastrzemski was literally the first guy in American League history to have 400 home runs and 3,000 hits. And how many people have done it since? So this measurement, I think, stuck in our minds still. It used to be a magic number, my point. At 400 home runs, you're getting in the Hall of Fame. I don't know about that so much anymore because there's just so many more home runs hit since 1994. There's been so many more home runs. I don't think it's the same measurement of a player, but I love them both. I'm glad they're both in. But I'd almost kind of think that the measurement for the sure Hall of Famer is bound to have ticked up a little bit. I think it's probably more like a 500 home run guy. I don't know. What do you guys think of that? I mean, it seems like to me it's changed.
It depends on who we're looking at, because we've had piles of players recently with more home runs, but they were excluded, as Gill sort of like mentioned or at the top of the program, Barry Bonds.
But we know why. That's a whole different. Yeah, right. Yeah. Right.
But
yeah.
But so we have players like that. Edwin Encarnacion was on this ballot. He didn't even sniff 5%, and he had 100. Edwin Encarnacion.
Okay. Yeah. What, 470 home runs?
He's over 400. I want to say like maybe 430 or something. I mean, I remember he had some great years in Toronto. Obviously, I'm going to remember that. But what I think the biggest issue they have, I don't even know so much an issue, it's just sort of how it's sort of playing out. You've got a ballot now that's a lot easier to get on, and it's just sort of the way it worked out. Like when Carlos Delgado was on his one and done ballot, there were, I believe, I might be off on this, but I think 17 players on that ballot who eventually got into the Hall of Fame, meaning it was colossally loaded and then also clogged because you had guys like Bonds who a lot of people weren't going to vote for. So he would continue to stay on the ballot. Now they've gotten rid of most of the guys they want to get rid of. And now they've just gotten rid of Manny Ramirez, which is what they want. They wanted him gone. You've got Omar Vizquel, who a lot of people will not vote for. So when you're looking at who's left on the ballot, and a lot of these guys, they will vote for 10. They don't have to. I mean, a lot of people don't know actually how the Hall of Fame works. The ballot will get to the writers. They can pick up to 10. or zero. 11 people put in zero ballot, put in zero. They submitted a blank ballot this year. I'm not a fan of that, but they can do it. So I think this is sort of like why we're seeing some of these people get in a lot earlier than they did. Andruw Jones, when he was on his first two ballots, didn't even have 10% because it's just so much harder. We've got Chase Utley, who jumped into, he finished his third year. He's projected to probably get it next year because the only big name entering the ballot is Buster Posey.
Yeah.
Buster Posey can jump in now as a first ballot Hall of Famer. To me, I never saw him as a first ballot Hall of Fame guy, but based on the ballot that we're going to have, he probably will be.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a certain aspect of that. Somebody has to be the elite player. Some people are the elite players of their era. And I guess it just continues the theme. I'm beating a dead horse in that I see some dynamic players, but I think something's changed in the stardom level. I just don't know in the present situation if we
just saying you seen what an elite baseball player is, and most of these people that are in the ballot now they weren't. It's just plain and simple. You looked at it and you say, if I had to think about somebody for 9 years, whether he's a Hall of Fame or not, to me he's not.
No, I'm with you on that, brother. I'm just saying, like, okay, I guess what I'm struggling with is this is what I know. Back in the early 2000s, when I had watched certain kids grow up with me, and I literally went down to Clemson one time and I saw Justin Verlander throw against Tyler Lumsden. I'd had both of them on fall ball teams. Tyler went in the first round. He made it through AAA, didn't get to the big leagues, but we kind of know who Verlander is. And when Tyler's pitching, he's got Jeff Baker at third base and Khalil Green shortstop at Clemson, right? And it's insane, you know. And then of course I'd work with Reynolds, and he's playing beside Ryan Zimmerman. You know, it's like I'm seeing college baseball in 05-ish or 04 was that draft year, and I'm seeing a certain thing. And I've been out the last few years to watch big time Division One baseball, and it's not the same. Or I'm old, and what I saw in my 40s, I saw differently. I don't know, but what I do know is when I go to a major league game, like you and I went down to Texas to see my buddy a couple years ago. The first time I saw Garcia and Wright, Cuban guy, I'm like, okay, that's a dude. I don't know what his history is, but that's a dude. What does he do? He shows out in the next playoff. He's tearing it up the next year. Now, Seager, that's a dude. You know, I'm like, it's an American kid, but I think more and more because the game has become international, and this is what Kirk and I were talking about the other night. I just think the average American game is down so much. So if you go see college baseball, it's mostly American kids. It's just not the same game. Doesn't mean the major leagues have suffered, just somebody else has replaced them, right? I mean, I think that's kind of what's happened. And there's nothing wrong. And we talked about this the other night. There's nothing wrong with that, but the quality of play, I think, at the college level, I think it's the same in football. I think it's the same in basketball. I just think all these things have slipped. They're going to be stars. I say all that to say somebody's got to make the Hall of Fame, I guess. But I think how we saw players was different. But if I talk to a 19-year-old kid, they may be seeing guys playing today and they see them the way I saw Aaron and Mays and Mantle. I don't know. Guys. You tell me, like, and we're just talking about Manny. So what would Manny be now? Manny's 55?
I believe so.
55. He's like 55 years old, right? Somewhere in that neighborhood. He's one of the top 5 hitters, right-handed hitters in the last 75 years. Am I wrong?
No.
God bless him. I mean, so I saw him, I was like, whoa, okay, Hell, I saw Dustin Pedroia good. I saw as a Sox fan, I saw Pedroia, I saw Ortiz. I mean, I saw guys, but where were they playing? They're playing like 15 to 20 years ago, right? Kind of their wheelhouse. So that would bring up the question: are players as good today, better today? I don't know.
I think we're still, because we talk about all these great players, in baseball, and a lot of them have been done in by the current rules being PED, whether people agree with that or not. Ramirez one, Clemens, Bonds. So all these greats of the great. We still have A-Rod on the ballot.
No, you're right. You're right.
So
You're right about that.
That sort of change it, like they still would have been had they never took anything. I think we know that.
No
We all
question.
saw them before they went a certain path. And there's a lot of that. Does that, I think, a result of that or byproduct, we're seeing guys like I loved Scott Rowland. Scott Rowland cruised into the Hall pretty easy.
Yeah.
Utley's going to do the same thing.
Yeah.
The set of the voter is changed because it kind of had to. And I think a lot of them also remember when there was no players who actually got in, and that's something they don't want either. And then what?
Okay, Kirk, you're making a great point.
You guys know, both of you guys know, because I think I did share certain information with you guys, where you guys seeing, they've already let some people, probably 12 or 14 guys already. They took PEDs. They already put them in.
They don't have the public stink.
Yeah, I mean, but
it's sort of like I'm going to football just because it's fresh in my mind. Sadly, there have been a few players who have done some awful things to their significant others. Only one of them did it on the elevator that was on camera.
Right.
Yeah.
So like Ray Rice will always be the worst of the worst because of what we saw.
Yeah, correct.
The players who you were mentioning before, there's 4 players that I think people can sort of figure out probably did something because they were alleged, but it's not. They don't have that universal stink on them.
Yeah.
So I think the voters in all 3 of those cases, or the 3 that I'm thinking of off the top of my head, they did make them wait a little bit. Like we just saw Beltrán have to wait a little bit. I'm a bit higher in Beltrán than I think the 2 of you are. But Beltrán had to wait because of his role in the Houston Astros cheating scandal.
Exactly. The trash can.
Right. So
yeah,
I think moving like next year, it's not going to get any better in terms of how we're going to see people jump. Like Andy Pettitte jumped. He admittedly used steroids. He was never suspended. I don't know
I believe he was also in the Mitchell report.
He was. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he was in that report. So he's in the Mitchell report. He did admit right after they said, okay, well, we think you used something. Yeah, I did. And this is when I did it. I mean,
he apologized.
And it was the perfect thing. I say that's the mold. Don't make up something. No, nobody spiked anything that you did. Oh, you didn't have a clue. Come on. I'm sure there's a couple cases where that's true. But we also saw that on this ballot where we had an MVP, Ryan Braun, who only got like 50%. And he got caught. He said
he has a recording test, the highest testosterone level in the history of mankind.
Like, and I felt bad for the guy who sort of like did that. Like the guy, he accused somebody,
and the commissioner knew about it.
Yeah.
Yes, still they voted for him for MVP. People knew it, and by the way, the commissioner was the owner of his team, right. And he's in the Hall of Fame.
Well, no, Braun.
Yes, Braun was in Bud Selig team.
No, but Braun's not going to be in the Hall of Fame.
No, I'm talking about but
the owner, commissioner.
Bud Selig.
The owner, sorry, Bud Selig.
Owner and commissioner. Yeah, and he knew he tested positive, and they were disputing the test. But yes, he is still allowed to get the award of MVP that year, knowing that he had tested positive, which at the time the public didn't know. But all the commissioner, obviously, because he was appealing it, the commissioner already knew it and allowed him to get the MVP, him knowing that he tested positive.
Right.
It's
But Kirk, to your point, I mean, you've made a great point. If you exclude so many people, you can't help but look through the lens of the best players in the game over a period of 2 decades at least are not going to get in, but somebody's going to get in. And they're going to be overshadowed by the fact that every guy that gets in is not Bonds. And Bonds, the evil villain or the misunderstood better guy than we thought, whatever the hell he is, we all know he did far more than anyone's ever done. So anybody that gets in under that if you take the highest level of performers and they're excluded, even if it's by their own doing, even if it's self-inflicted, the guys behind them that get in are going to wear a little bit of really they're all of I think that's what's happening. I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Yeah, it's just shocking to me that that's just what we come down to. But I guess it's the whole of very good.
And from what we saw on the senior vote, with both Bonds and Clemens not receiving enough support to at least have their vote tally public, it's done. It is done for those two. From what I've read in quotes from Bonds, he's made peace with that, and I hope that's the case.
Yeah,
because there's no point dwelling over it. He knows, and that's great that he's at peace, even though I'm with the two of you. I've said this multiple times. If he was ever caught after Major League Baseball and the union said, okay, we're all in agreement, this is bad and you'll get suspended. Too many, and again, like you said, Gil, C-League's in. How many managers are in? Like, that's my dividing line.
All those people benefit from the steroid era.
Yeah,
The
and
game benefit from the steroid era monetarily, right? So they made this kind of money. They took the game on a global scale. That you seen even the residue of that now in today's game.
yeah. Well, speaking of, I guess, of today's game, there's been a lot of free agencies. We're not going to go over everything because God, we just can't. But there's a couple things that I want to get your take on. This happened, I believe, a week and a half ago, and it's basically the rich getting richer, but it's always sort of like been that way. And sometimes even when you're really rich, you can make bad decisions. We've seen teams load up on salary and do very poorly. So the thing with baseball, sometimes you'll sign that big contract, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be able to do in your late 20s and early 30s what you did in your early 20s. We sure know that. The big thing with that, though, was Kyle Tucker signing with the Dodgers. I believe the contract that he signed makes him the second highest contract currently in baseball, behind Shohei Ohtani. A lot of people don't find this fair. What are you going to do? This is baseball. I kind of have to accept it. I think that's where I thought he was going to go. Is this perpetual imbalance going to always be a problem here, or what do we do? How do we fix this? Do we not fix it? Accept it? And
You're gonna have to accept it. And you know what I'm hearing is this. This is what teams are gonna operate now from now on, right? They're not gonna give the long-term contracts anymore. What they're gonna do is they're gonna maximize the amount of money they're gonna make per year, and they're gonna give a signing bonus. So the Dodgers are just doing better than anybody else. Again, how you get Shohei Ohtani to defer about $68 million of his salary every year? The guy literally was writing a check of $2 million last season.
Yep.
Right now, in paper, they have a payroll of $386 million, but because they did it the best way, right, and has so much money to defer, they only sitting at 320. All right, and I understand they prolong the issue. It's going to be they committed long term to these players, but I remind you that in the last 25 seasons, only 3 different teams that were number one in payroll has won the World Series.
Right.
And last season, the Dodgers were literally just a tenth to the second from losing to the Blue Jays. If the second baseman doesn't make that play, he's stumbling through the home plate. It was that close. But I think that they're doing the best out of anybody else, and I can't be mad. I'm a Yankee fan myself. When the Yankees were doing it in the 90s, I didn't have a problem with it. I shouldn't have a problem with the Dodgers doing it now.
That's something, too, that we have this lens of recency, I guess, generally. And I think you guys may have seen it. I thought it was stunning when it came out in like 91, 92, when it was a game where they find all the old 8mm footage where the players recorded, black and white, and then the new color film. I say that to say they're interviewing all these guys, and this one guy played for the St. Louis Browns. And he said, our attendance one year was 86,000. I'm not talking about at a game. Our attendance was 86,000 for the year. And eventually they become the Baltimore Orioles. They can't, the only year they have success is during World War II. They actually make the World Series, only pennant they ever won. But my point is, he said every year our top prospects got bought by the Yankees. And it was literally the Yankees came around and said, we understand you owe $200,000 in hotels and laundry and everything else. You can't start the season with the debt. Give us your best player. And the Browns would say, this is what one of these players said. The Browns would come back, but he's our best player. Yeah, but you owe $200,000. So everybody became a farm system for the Yankees. But let's face it, in that kind of a sweet spot of the 50s, the Dodgers were going to be good. The Cardinals were good for decades, and the Yankees were always going to be that team. And it was a soap opera playing out that most of America knew that in many major cities throughout the country, my team's never going to win the World Series. They're not even going to get close to the World Series. But you got a chance to see Major League Baseball. You know, the Washington Senators, first in war, was it first in war, first in peace, last in the American League? It was always, that was the thing about Washington, with the George Washington twist to it. But that's what baseball was. And people act like often what the Dodgers are doing today isn't historic. I mean, it's always been this way. There's always been haves and have-nots. But doesn't that kind of, that's why I thought it was so sexy, because I remember in the 70s what the Royals did.
Sexy, huh?
The Royals were cool, man, because the Royals were just like, they built that baseball school, boardwalking baseball down in Florida. And was it Frank White came out of that? And I think Willie Wilson. I mean, like they developed like 3 or 4 guys that came out of this school. So, Kirk, if you're not familiar with it, they literally put together a school in Florida and went and got prospective kids that could run, had a couple of tools, and they taught them how to play baseball. And some of them made it to the big leagues. And, it was cool, though, because the Royals were not supposed to be good. And they kept getting knocked out by the Yankees every year. But it was fun to watch. It was a cool time to watch baseball. And the Yankees, they bought it. They had to bite it in the late 60s. It got bad, and then Steinbrenner comes in and turns it back around, and they outspend everybody. But it was still a drama that was fun to watch, right? I mean, I don't have a problem with the fact that there's going to be dynasties. And I don't know. And like Gill just said, all this spending doesn't mean you're going to win. That's been proven. There's a lot of locker rooms that are clubhouses that don't jive with all the money in the world and all the salaries. It's just not working. So,
well, the Mets didn't even make the playoff with the second largest payroll last season.
Right. What was it last year? Milwaukee had nobodies. They took a bunch of nobodies, and wire to wire, they were one of the better teams in baseball. They just played the game correctly with lesser known talents. So I think it's still doable. It's definitely harder without money. But I do think you can fill a clubhouse with so many big-headed, big-ego guys with money that it's not going to work. And that's kind of what happens.
They've definitely done it the right way, and the team seems to have some chemistry. But again, we can't complain about the money they spend if it's allowing the game. There's some other teams that had the money and they choose not to spend that money, and perhaps get more money for their pockets, but not necessarily put it in the team to win.
At the end of the day, it's entertainment. You know what I mean? It's entertainment at some level. And I don't have a problem with the villain, the good guy, the bad guy, the overachiever. Like again, with the Brewers last year, that's kind of sexy when some team, is overachieving with a lower budget. That becomes something that people kind of, catch on to. They like that. So, and I think with pro football, there's always been that desire to create parity. And I think the creation of parity kind of led to, I don't know, somewhat of a boring product. But once you get Brady and Belichick together, they will have a 20-year run where they win 6 Super Bowls together. Brady goes off and wins another one with Tampa, but it was in a league design, but like very much like you say with Ohtani, Brady was always willing to get nothing, relative to his talent. He took a lot of less money so that there would be a team.
Even though, and I always talk about this in corporate America too, Jack and Kirk, so just so you know, but even though that 20-year run, they win 9 years but didn't win a Super Bowl too.
That's right. That's right.
Right. So even then, the parity that was created in NFL, and the Giants wanted that in there, and then the Eagles won in there, while the Patriots, they actually beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl too as well. But in baseball, what we've seen is, I go back to that season where I was hearing rumors that the Angels knew that Ohtani was going to walk.
Mm-hmm.
And they knew they were not going to be able to afford him. They were not going to be able to sign him, right? Me knowing what I know, how do you let that guy walk without getting the compensation? And then you had other teams that could have perhaps joined the bidding war that didn't even try. So now that we're surprised that, the Dodgers are making hundreds of tens of millions of dollars in Japan, right?
Yeah.
And they have the additional revenue to put this payroll together and be 100% on the tax bracket, the penalty that they have to pay every year, right? And they don't mind that because they know they're making money hand over fist. Then they went and signed Yamamoto, which the difference between them and the Yankees is about $8 million. So, the Dodgers are doing it better than anybody else. I honestly, being a baseball guy for all my life, I can't complain about them doing it best than anybody else. The front office is doing a tremendous job. I think it's the first time that I've seen a franchise being owned by different owners that they literally genuinely care about winning, and then they want to put the best product in the field. And they're going to continue. I don't think they're done. They might not be signing people, but I think they're going to be heavily involved in the trade market.
Also, too, we've seen summer, like even just last summer, how many articles came out where, what's wrong with the Dodgers? Things can click and change so quickly.
Right.
Yes, sir.
I think the one thing that's been lost, though, that I do think is an issue, I think it's a big issue. It's growing up again. I got the Ted Williams thing back here. I got Boston Red Sox cap. So the guy that caught my eye growing up in Virginia for whatever reason was Carl Yastrzemski. He played 23 years with the Red Sox. So all through my development into my teenage years, one thing I knew is Jazz was playing for the Red Sox. That's it. I kind of felt that way about Jim Rice, and I felt that way about Dwight Evans. Of course, Fitz got out. But my point is, if you were a fan of a team and you love certain players, they were probably going to spend a career there, very likely. This thing of guys playing with 5 teams in 7 years, the hired gun aspect of it, whatever, is it good for them? Is it good for some fan base? I guess, but I've already mentioned this. The Red Sox won the World Series in 2018. I was at spring training 2 years ago, and Devers was the only guy on the 40-man roster that I recognized having been on the 2018 team, and then he's gone. Yeah, I mean, everybody's gone. Like in 2022, when my buddy was managing the Rangers, I went to Boston, and I saw Bogarts, who I'd always loved from afar, and I was like, oh my God, I just love him. Bogarts is gone. I mean? So, when Mookie left, it's just hard to be a fan of an organization when you have budding superstars. The history is there's been a lot of guys that started off in an organization. They were young, they got traded, but you only know them. Like, Lou Brock started off with the Cubs. Very few people know that. He comes to the Cardinals, he's Lou Brock. So, I mean, that happened. Was it Ryan Sandberg started off with the Phillies, and then he goes to I think it was Philly, and then he goes to the Cubs. But we don't really know that development part of being in the minors with another team. We just kind of know them with the one team. Right. And so, yeah, his guys moved around a little bit. Yeah, but man, it was cool to know. I'm reminiscing playing old guy again, but it was nice to know that year to year you kind of liked the same guys and you knew that they were going to play their careers out. That's just one thing I think is absolutely lost. I don't like it, but
it's hard to kind of relate to a team like to your point, right? Where you're gonna have different plays every year. You look at a guy like Juan Soto, right?
Mm-hmm.
How does a guy like Juan Soto, under 27 years old, with that type of talent, already was the best player in the championship team, right? And the second best player in the team that made it to the World Series. This is his 4th team already. I mean, before he's 30, already in the prime of his career. This is his fourth team, the Mets.
Well, given the proximity I have to DC, I listen to a lot of radio shows, local sports radio when all this was happening, when he came up with Washington, or he started off his career in Washington. And they're like, you might have, they were making comparisons, and I think valid ones, of him being a Ted Williams. He could be that guy. How can you let him out of Washington? They're crunching the numbers, can't afford to keep him. Well, that's kind of heartbreaking because I grew up 70 miles from DC, and I'm in Virginia, not far from DC. I wanted to see Soto stay in Washington, but it wasn't going to happen. So if you're an Nats fan, you win a World Series, you have that crazy series where the road team wins every game. You come out of it with a series. Is Washington ever going to be good again? I don't know.
Be a while.
That year, they went from the previous year from being 22nd in payroll to number 8 when they won that World Series. So adding that additional amount of money to the team that ended up paying off.
Right. But I think that's also what will happen, right? If you get really good and you're not expecting it, then you're adding those hired guns for a brief period of time to sort of do that. But yeah, I mean, you're right with what you're saying, Jackson, because I'll feel old too, because I've got my get off my lawn moments. But then I got to remember Wayne Gretzky was a St. Louis Blue for a cup of coffee.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have his guys historic. Well, Sonny Jurgensen, my favorite football player. He started off with the Eagles. And I was heartbroken as a kid to find that he'd ever played for somebody other than Washington, but he got traded when I was 2. I didn't know, right? And then I kind of found out, not much of a career in Philadelphia. He had a couple years start and he sat behind Norm Van Brocklin. But yeah, you have a favorite team, you have a favorite player. Having grown up near Baltimore, I'm skewing into football again, but I knew people that just absolutely loved Johnny Unitas. If you grew up in Maryland or Virginia and you knew, he was legendary. He was bigger. He was bigger than you can imagine. And you couldn't have imagined him playing for anybody else. So heartbreakingly, he plays that 1 year in San Diego. He's past his prime and he leaves. Those were heartbreaking moments for a lot of people when their superstar guy, it was, the career was over and they'd go somewhere else. But that's what guys sometimes did at the end of their careers. They stayed with teams for lifetimes. And again, I'm just beating that dead horse. It just makes it tough for me as a fan to not see players. And as a Red Sox fan, I was glad that Reggie Jackson was with the Yankees, even though that was his third or fourth team at that time. But the rivalry stuff, that's part of what you love too, is not liking the other guys. And when I talked about the Kansas City, New York, man, you got Nettles going against Brett, literally in fights, and that was great series because the Royals kept bringing all these guys back every year, and the Yankees kept repeating with pretty much the same guys in the mid to late 70s, and they were epic battles. And I don't know, I turn on the TV every year, and I'm like, the guys with that, it's a whole new lineup, and they even maybe pennant contending teams, but there's nobody there consistently. So I've made that whole point. It's just it's tougher and tougher for me to watch. But I do think we have a generation. Kirk, you and I talked about this the other night. These are fantasy kids. I mean, fantasy in the sense that's what they're growing up with is what kind of production does my player give? I don't care who he's playing for. It doesn't matter who he's playing for. It's just what kind of numbers is he creating for me on FanDuel or DraftKings or whatever league they're in. I think that's where they see players differently.
I don't disagree with you at all. And we see the more and more scandals, gambling, and better now in high school. I mean, it's getting a little bit ridiculous, but that's just we come down to when all these trust sites and gambling sites started investing money. Major League Baseball, basketball. You start seeing these cases, and I think impugns the integrity of the game. It is something to be borderline, but I guess because we're not from this new age that we live in today, and we come a little bit across this old school, but man, it's just different out there.
Well, but even the people who are a lot younger than us, they're going to have to get used to that in college because almost everything when college football feels like a 1-year contract now. with transfer portal and NIL. That's just where it is. Could we do anything about it? Nope. So I'm just gonna have to accept.
I'm happy. I'm not mad about NIL money at all.
No, I'm not either. I'm just talking about loyalty in terms of staying with the school. Because if you're, I don't know, I'm just gonna throw something out, LSU, right? You've anyone that you just sort of like might be able to recruit, either as a freshman, doesn't mean they're going to be there as a sophomore. Because everyone's got to look for another, for their better opportunity, which I'm for. But if you're a fan of that specific program, it makes it a lot harder to sort of develop that kinship that, like you were talking about, Jack, with a lot of those players, and like a lot of people did. And now in college, that's going to be pretty much, it's already gone at this point.
Well, let me say this about all that too, because I think this is important. Because I had this talk with a guy in pro ball the other day in baseball, but I used this example. I watched a thing recently on Brady, and I'm always hearing a new story. Would we not agree in this century, 21st century, not many people have had a more successful, sexy career than Tom Brady? Fair?
Absolutely.
Fair.
He's pretty good, right? Okay.
Yes.
Heard that.
So he's talking about he hit a point with Michigan. He goes in there, he's eighth, and we all know he's eighth on the depth chart. All these guys are in front of him. Then they go out and they get Drew, Hanson. What was Hanson? What was this kid's last name? The one that they brought into they ended up playing baseball. Was it Hanson? Played with the Yankees for a while. Right? Michigan kid. Anyway.
Yes. Hanson. Third baseman.
Right. So they're always going out to try to get was it Luke Hanson or Drew?
Drew Hanson.
Right. Anyway, they're always trying to replace him. He's not a center ring guy. And I see this interview with him, and he said, I hit a moment where I really considered going back to Fresno. It was like I could go to Fresno State. I could bag out of Michigan. And my mommy and daddy had taught me, he's kind of like, no, pick it up, go in there, be a man. And he went to the head coach. How do I start? You got to do, blah, blah, blah. So they still go with the other guy fails or whatever, bad game. He comes in, throws 3 touchdowns second half. The rest of the story. So I'm asking, the point I'm making is, do you think he's the man he is to go 199 overall, 6th round and do the things he did? If he just picked up and tucked his tail and gone back to some lesser school than Michigan, lesser, but let's face it, from a competitive standpoint, him playing at Michigan was different than going back to some California school that wasn't Southern Cal, right? So he said, I was going to stick it out in Michigan. I'm going to prove these bastards I'm the guy. So what's happening with kids now, and it worked, but I'm saying what's happening with kids now, and I think it's a real issue, and some of them are benefiting and still getting into the league and all. But if you've shown something at 18, 19, 20, where things aren't quite going the way you want, you pick up and leave, and the portal's wide ass open. And the sad thing is, some kids or some schools can hit on a recruit that, let's face it, they didn't even know what they had probably. And this guy blossoms, and bigger school comes in, steals that guy. And I've talked to coaches, especially baseball coaches, because I'm closer to them. They're getting into situations where a freshman takes off. They got to really. These guys have told me they're kind of mid-major Division Ones. They're kind of like, damn, we might have to sit this guy. And they won't. Had a kid that played in the Cape. I shouldn't have said that. I'll say played in a prestigious summer league. And I said, what was it like this year? He goes, Coach, there's no talent left really because none of the kids will go there because all the schools are afraid that their players are going to get stolen. So it's like the league is down now in the summer leagues because college coaches don't want to send players out because they don't know what's going to happen. And that is happening. Coaches are going to basically take players from other schools.
It's kind of funny you mentioned that because I had a conversation Monday with a current agent who told me the same. He went to the league. He went there with the intention of spending 2 days. And he told me he left after the 3rd inning. He said he'd never seen it before.
The talent level was down.
Yes, in the same league you mentioned.
Well, that's what a kid told me. He went there to play, and he says, Coach, it's not what I thought it would be, but after asking around, everybody's like, nah, guys aren't showing up anymore because the teams are afraid they'll lose their players. So, I mean, it's two different things there. The NIL, which I agree, I'm Mr. Libertarian free market type. I do think it was wrong. Like, was it Terrell? Was it Terrell Pryor years ago that got in trouble because he's at an autograph show signing his jersey? I think it was. I don't want to put that Pryor. God
But
bless
there's
him.
been several in the same boat.
Right.
No.
But I heard a guy arguing on his behalf, and he said, "You can go sure, he's getting a free ride to school, right? Books, tuitions, etc. And he's got a meal plan at the cafeteria. But down at the bookstore, there's an 11 hanging on a jersey at Ohio State that they're charging $111 for. And everybody in the world knows who the hell that represents. And then when you go to, some sports, one of the video game manufacturers, everybody knows when you're playing Ohio State on the field there, you know who 11 is. And that guy's not getting crap for his name.
Hey, I had a conversation with my wife the other day about the same thing. I was like, hey, I'm eating random noodles soothing. My jersey is being sold out there for $75. Somebody's getting paid, and it's not me.
Right. Right. And that's the thing, kind of, again, maybe it's a free market thing, but if somebody wanted to purchase that jersey and have him sit at an autograph show and sign it, and of course this has all been resolved, I guess, why not? Why shouldn't he get a buck for giving that fan exactly what they wanted, his jersey with his name on it? I mean, shouldn't he get the money? He's the one that represents that number.
Well, not only that, I mean, like going back to the video games, I think the whole thing where that set everything in motion was the Ed O'Bannon lawsuit at
Yes.
the UCLA.
Yeah, he went to UCLA. Yes,
yeah.
Both him and his brother. Both.
I know this is a baseball show, but for those who are like, who's Ed O'Bannon? Well, it was a basketball.
Yeah.
But it was the same thing. Like, okay, you're putting my likeness in a video game, and I don't make anything. And sure enough, I mean, I think that was what Chris Webber what said. Like after like the Fab Five, he still had another year of eligibility at Michigan, and he's seeing people like sell pictures of him, Jalen, and the rest of them. Forget this, and I'm getting in trouble. Forget it.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, because there is a video of when they came out actually with the Black Sox, right?
Yeah.
They came out with blank T-shirts because they were protesting that everybody else was making money on them and it weren't. But little did they knew, Nike started printing Black Sox like crazy. But
those two things working together, portal and NIL, there's such a disparity in the NIL money. So the kid's going and somebody's offered him X. He plays a great freshman year, and somebody comes in and said, how about some Y? And the Y is substantially more than the X. That's where I think it gets a little bit hairy. Now, also, does it often maybe up that kid's stock to play professionally? Sure. Playing at one school versus the other might make a huge difference. And again, I'm all for the free market, but I think the product, the kids, it's just in all sports, but it probably didn't look any different. You guys may be even aware of this. You may be aware of this. I saw this thing years ago, and I'll never forget it. And I'm just kind of paraphrasing. I'm doing the best I can with what I remember seeing, but it was like this quote: if these money-hungry, horrible baseball players don't continue to gouge the fan and blah, blah, it's just all this nastiness about these money-hungry, money-grubbing, terrible baseball players. And then at the end of this quote, it says, 1873 Sporting News. Right. And I mean, it was really an eye-opener, because you're reading it and you're like, wow, that is the position a lot of people take on professional baseball. Oh, wait a minute. It was in the 1870s. And it was like the Sporting News. And they're saying the exact same thing. So none of this is new under the sun. I mean, everybody's always thought, baseball players are overpaid, and and compared to what the average guy on the street makes, yeah, it's something people can't fathom, really, how somebody can make $20 million a year and up.
Kyle Tucker, you're gonna make 60 now.
I remember the first time. I remember the first time I was aware of a million. I think it was Jim Rice. I mean, that was what, 1981-ish, and they were like Jim Rice, crosses a million, like $1 million season. What? It's like $1 million, man. They blew right past that real fast.
Yes.
Didn't take long. Well, I guess we should stick right with baseball. I know there's another big signing, or rather, well, it is a signing, but he's decided to stay put. And Cody Bellinger has remained with the New York Yankees. Bellinger, I'm happy for him personally because he had that monster MVP season with the Dodgers very early in his career, and then 2 years later he had like going back to advanced stats. But if you've got a negative 1.5 WAR, you didn't have a good year. And that's where he was. And it's like, oh my God. I was trying to think if I've ever seen an MVP player under 25, like get his MVP and then fall off so quickly. Well, he's back. He's just signed some big money with the Yankees. Bo Bichette stayed with them, just signed with the Mets. And we were talking about Milwaukee. They just traded for Freddie Peralta. So the Mets there, and as we were laughing at them about a month ago, not as much right now.
Yeah, they signed. They also got traded for Luis Robert Jr.
Yes,
he was 27.
Yeah.
So they have become a lot younger. And Freddie Peralta is a guy who's averaged about 6.5 innings per start, which now in today's game that's almost unheard of. He won 17 games last year. His ERA was under 2.50. He has had 4 or 5 seasons or under 3 in his career. So I think that he's going to help him out a great deal. Bellinger, I'm happy because I'm a Yankee fan. He's from Oneonta, New York, upstate New York. His dad played for the Yankees, won a championship with the Yankees. I'm happy, but it got dicey there for a little bit because they offered that offer about 15 days ago, and I think the conversations that I had with an executive was that he wanted to get paid for 7 years, and he wanted a $50 million signing bonus, and he wound up getting 162 for 5, and wound up getting a signing bonus of $20 million.
Kirk, this might not be exactly with the fall off that when you mentioned I just looked it up, like the Bellinger from MVP to next season. The first name that popped in my mind was Joe Charbonneau. Are you familiar with his story? Do you remember? You remember it, Gill?
Yeah, I remember him. I remember the name.
Yes.
He was rookie of the year and out of baseball 2 years later.
Yes.
He was a 25-year-old rookie. I just looked up the numbers. He had a 2.4 WAR. He was rookie of the year. Hit 23 home runs. The next year he had a negative WAR, and the next year a negative WAR. And at the age of 27, I remember it. He was all the flash, but he was a 25-year-old rookie. And in 2 years, he basically fell off the planet in Major League Baseball and went on to be kind of hey, you remember Joe Charbonneau? Because he was rookie of the year, and then, his career kind of fell off.
Baseball is such a humbling game, right?
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah,
no doubt.
You can have such a great season or a great game, and the next game you say like, "Whoa, do I even know how to do this?"
Well, you know this, Gil, because you've been around and you played professionally. That's all you hear from guys that play pro ball is you have maybe an undiscovered weakness, the fastball in this zone, the whatever. And they'll take a little time to figure it out. That's why a lot of guys are, especially with the bat, hot early, because somebody hasn't found the hole yet. And then sometimes they do. And so that's what I hear from so many players. It's like it's a game of now they've figured me out. I got to figure out how to gain the advantage again to at least be able to survive. That's why it's tough because, at that level with pitching, if there's a hole to exploit, they're going to nail that hole over and over and over.
Well, so I could tell you for personal experience, right? So when I was playing in Dominican Republic and I was playing against guys that, like Black Guerrero and Simon Sosa, guys that are in the Hall of Fame, or, Sosa not, but Black Guerrero, yes, and some others, there were at bats that those guys used to bait you in. And what I mean by that is, I would throw a cutter right in the, out of the plate, low out, and those guys will actually look at it all day long until they actually needed to swing to win the game. And that's exactly what they did. You would throw a change up outside. You try to kind of change the eye level all the time of the hitter and either go inside, hopping inside. And those guys sometimes used to watch that pitch a couple of times until they actually needed to swing. And that's what I mean by they used to bait you in. So,
Yeah.
it was a game of cat and mouse all the time with the hitters. You thought you had them all. I struck them out. I made it look pretty bad, and next thing you know, it's the 7th inning with the bases loaded, so 2 people on base, and you were up by 1 run, and you threw that pitch, and all of a sudden it's in the stands.
Yeah, that's what makes it such a special game. The people over, the ones that have had the great 20-year type of careers, the adaptations. I also think there are some guys that were kind of bulletproof in their abilities. Like they just really didn't have the same holes to exploit. I mean, honestly, they probably had the least amount, but yeah, there are the guys that. So the kid that I worked with years ago doing pitching lessons, who now he's a major league umpire, he's 40-ish, I guess. And I did pitching lessons with him. And then, after some college baseball, he decided to go to one of the schools and got certified and went on into pro ball. I asked him one day, I was like, who's the best hitter you see day in and day out? He goes, Freddie Freeman. He was like, Freddie Freeman. And I said, why? He goes, because when it's a hit count, counts in his favor, and the pitch is thrown, he does not miss. That's exactly what he says. Like, this, what it means is like, it's a hittable pitch, and it's not fouled back into the stands. It's not dribbled off his foot. He nails it. Like, that's why he's a great hitter. Like, I can see when he's in these positions, he's going to come through. On the flip side, I said, who's the best pitcher you've ever seen? And he said, Verlander. I said, why? He goes, because he comes right down the middle of the plate, pretty much. He just attacks you. You hit a solo homer, tip your cap. But he's just going to be nasty. He's just going to throw filth up there at 95. And then when somebody gets on, he becomes a real prick. And then he becomes tougher. Like when people get in scoring position, then he starts hitting corners and nibbling. But his approach is, I'm just going to challenge you until I have to do otherwise. And I'm like, I love that. And he said Ohtani was special too, just because of the stuff. He said the stuff was better. But that thing about Freeman, those are the guys that it's a key thing, man. When you're in a hitting count, it's time to hit. You don't miss. You're that guy. So there's some good ones. That's what I always loved about Manny. Manny baited guys, right? There was always as a big Manny
Ramirez. Service days, man. It was kind of crazy though. I used to play for the Bonnies, and he used to play for the youth service. So there was always a rivalry in Brooklyn, New York. Those teams, but he was already gone when I was playing for the Bonnies. But that's a league that to this day, man, it's been around since the early 1900s. Those 2 teams from New York City.
That's awesome.
Is there any other transaction that we want to look at?
No, I just think what is coming. I mean, Framing Valdez is still out there. Eugenio Suarez is still out there. There's going to probably be some people that are going to not sign into spring training starts, and which I think it hurts players a great deal. Snell was kind of one of the most recent example of that. It is because it's simply teams are not going to, anybody who wants 6 or 7 year deal, those deals are done. I honestly think that the new age of contracting is going to be, we're going to give you a 5-year deal that out of convenience to you, we're going to let you be out of the contract the 2nd or 3rd year, which is what the Yankees did with Bellinger. He has to act out the 2nd and 3rd. And so is Kyle Tucker too. They can act out. Bregman has the same thing, and act out as 2 or 3 years, the 2nd or 3rd year. So you're going to start seeing a lot of people. This is essentially a 1-year deal.
Yeah,
hoping that you have a great season and you can re-up. But the days of getting 10-year deals, I think they're over.
That's probably the best thing for all teams considered. How many times we've seen, not that many, but when someone will sign that 10-year deal, they're never going to live up to that.
No, they don't age well. They don't age well. They don't age well. contracts specifically for guys that that they have this combination of speed and power. The human body after a while, man, 34, 35 years old, and you've been in the league for 12, 13 years. That takes a word in tearing your body, man.
Father Time's always undefeated. So I think this was pretty good. And I think next week or the week after, depending on what kind of news we have, we should definitely do this again.
Hey, Kirk, let me run something by you real quick. I know maybe we may be hard on hour, but
Yeah.
I think something we want to talk about a little bit is, Kirk and I talked about this the other night, Gil. I was with a particular friend of mine who is heavily in the know, and he mentioned someone that he's close to who is very heavily in the know. And he said baseball will not recover from what's going on between ownership and players. Like, we're going to come out of this on the other side with something that's new. However it plays out, it's not going to be what we've known. And I'm looking at some of the news that's out there, and it does look like they've reached a position of impasse that might not be salvageable. So I think to your point, with Gil, what you're saying too is there's going to have to be a restructuring of the game. Some of these teams might be thinking long-term or lesser long-term or whatever, but in the back of their minds, like, where's this even going? So what are both of you? What's your sense of where are we? And let me just say real quick too, for the listeners, sort of the history that we have. And I remember these 72 player strike, 13 days, 73, 17 days. That was the owner's lockout. 94, 95 ended the season. And then it was into the spring of 95. There were replacement players in spring training. We didn't know what was going to happen. 2021 owners lockout ongoing since December 2nd. So where are we? Like, what is the structure of Major League Baseball going to even be going forward? It seems with the history of 50 plus year history, it's never been resolved. You know what I mean? It's just not been resolved. It's been on, off and on. Living through the 94 end of season, that was crazy. I mean, that was literally crazy. I was like, I'll never see a major league sport until COVID with 2020 and, that season, whatever they did for that season. Of course, that was international, whatever. But like, to see a season end, man, I never thought I'd see that. And of course, the game suffered until they come back with the Ripken going after the streak, and then of course all the home runs saved it. But
and I got something to that, because I was supposed to be a replacement player. I got actually invited for the Cincinnati Reds and a couple of the teams, and after a while, that hurt us a lot because I knew a lot of players. They could have pitched in the majors,
right,
and maybe Double A or Triple A, but once they were in the list, they actually attended, sort of like a spring training as a replacement players. Man, most people really, I hate to use the word blackball, but
they did.
I knew a lot of players that they just never got another shot.
Yep.
Right. I remember I was throwing 94, 95 with a good changeup, a couple of breaking balls, and there was people staying away from me. I know that I had some off the field issues, at the time, but I just saw a lot of people not get a shot because they were replacement players. But to your point, Jack, I think as long as the money continue to come in from the TV, somebody decided, Seattle Mariners got a new TV deal or new network that are going to come in. This other money for all this revenue from the gambling situation, I still think it's going to change.
I don't dispute that, but I mean, what I'm hearing though is where they are with what happens with all that dough. They're not coming to an agreement. This is not going to happen. So the more you grow the pot, the more we argue the pot's bigger, the more the players are getting pissed off about the way it's going down. So that's where my concern is. I mean, it's again what my friend told me, like, it ain't ending.
I think 2027 they're gonna have to. I think that's when the labor agreement, the current labor agreement ends.
Yeah, it
So
said
I
December 1,
think
2026. I think it's this December.
well, yeah. So
Yeah.
so
Yeah. So
December
it's something's
it's
good.
kind
Right.
of
Right. So
January
it's got to
2020.
be. Yep.
So
Yep.
I figured it's going to be some changes, and I don't know if it's going to be in the form of having a cap space, just kind of capping at a certain amount of money. I mean,
Right.
obviously they're not staying away from the taxes. Some teams are going to pay over $100 million in luxury tax. They're not staying away because of it.
Yeah.
I think the adjustment is going to be in how many players can you allow to have in a team to make X,
Right.
right? And then how many players you're going to be able to have they can legitimate have a more than a 5-year contract.
We also have an other inverse problem with some teams who you're forcing them just to spend the minimum.
Yes.
We've got that as
we established that already once, right?
Yeah. Some teams just are perfectly happy to some owners, I should say, not teams, but
because they were still making $60-70 million revenue.
Right.
Right. So, it didn't matter if I spend $100 million if I'm making 60 or 70, or it doesn't matter if my payroll is $30 million and I'm still making the $60-70 million profit.
Now, as I was mentioning to Kirk again the other night too, when we did the show the other night, another thing I saw recently is there may be elimination of A ball. It may just become AA, AAA, because they said when they're looking at what the revenues are coming from the minor leagues, the attendance is so low at the A level. And again, I think what's going to happen, it's already happening. There's going to be tons of independent league teams, and they're going to have to sign guys out of. They're going to drop the draft. They're saying to 10 rounds. So the days of, I can remember the 62 rounds and filling out all these, major league teams would have 8 minor league teams in their farm system at different levels, and they're filling that those days apparently are gone. And I don't know if it's so good for the game or bad. I don't know. I mean, I think that if they're plucking guys out of independent ball for need every once in a while, there's nothing wrong with that. It's still opportunities to play.
I wonder if if I'm an owner of a major league team or just part of that, and I'm comparing my sport to others. The NFL pretty much has no minors. Just so you're practicing and everything. The NHL with a comparable roster has your version of AAA, the American Hockey League, and then a couple minor leagues below that.
Right.
Basketball just looked like that one thing there, and there is. I think it was you was saying that to me when we were talking a couple of days. If you make it to the minors or single A, what are your odds that you're actually going to make it to the pros? And so, how bloated is that? And if they're cutting back on that, yes, it's going to hurt the development for a lot of people. It might impact opportunity, but then if it's money going after nothing, I don't know. But I think about the small little towns in America, where that's part of the fabric of the community.
But they'll put in an independent league team and probably often I think do better. So what I was saying the other day, and Gill and I have had this conversation. I remember a scout buddy of mine telling me this 15 years ago. He goes, Jack, the game, it won't be long before the game is Latin American and Asian. That's what, I see it, and that's what's happening. So I think the minor league system of drafting American players and hoping, well, hell, if you're signing, the number of players that you are internationally, why the hell would you sink all this money in minor league development that may or may not pan out? So that's why I think if baseball gets turned over to independent ball in the States, and Latin American and Asian kids will probably be playing in that too. Wonderful. All God's children, welcome, bring them in. But then they can play. And if somebody wants to, it's actually better for the teams. I had a friend of mine years ago that said he was managing in AAA, and he had 3 outfielders go down in a weekend, 3. So he calls the main, he calls the club and says, I'm out of outfielders. They sign a guy from the Atlantic League, which is like AAA and a half. It's the highest level of independent ball. That guy hits third and leads the team in batting the rest of the year. And he goes, we didn't have to trade anybody. All we had to do is buy out this guy's contract and get him from the Atlantic League to us. And he finished the season in AAA in the International League and tore it up. So nobody. But he said some teams took the position, their scouting people would get a little bit miffed because they're like, well, wait a minute. Why are we scouting and drafting these kids and doing player development if you're just going to go out and get somebody from an independent league? Well, if you eliminate this, the minor league system, but that's going to put a lot of coaches out of work. It's going to put a lot of guys in the developmental end of it out of work. I mean, it's what's going to happen. You're eliminating jobs. So maybe guys, but I don't know. Again, I don't know that from that small town standpoint, Kirk, you're talking about. There's a lot of independent baseball towns that are really into their teams, and they're not just getting what some major league team is sending through the draft. They're getting to sign their own guys. They're getting kids that may be popular to the area. Wonderful. It still gives opportunity.
I can argue I kind of lived in one. Winnipeg had a team, even though it's a small town, but like an independent team, the Gold Eyes, that a lot of fun to go to in the independent league. So,
yeah. Well, they're required to put, I think, a better show together. Like if you're a minor league affiliate, okay, you're going to get players pretty much guaranteed because the club's going to send somebody. And the ownership, although I would say across the board, minor league baseball has become more of a family atmosphere. It's become amusement parks, basically, in a lot. There's like kiddie play area and all these different things to make it more of a fan experience. But golly, even at a minor league game, that proverbial family of four, mom, dad, and the kids, it's costing you some bucks to go to a minor league game. So, I mean, they get entertained a little bit, but there's no $1.50 bleacher seats anymore. I mean, I don't know. It seems like
$1.50.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty expensive. I go to Tides games all the time, and that's Norfolk Tides, AAA for Baltimore. The cheapest seat in the house any home game night is $21. That's what I've seen. 21's the cheapest seat. And I can remember 30, 40 years ago doing a AAA game for less than $5. Literally, you could get a $4.50 ticket and sit in a pretty good seat in the 90s. So everything's changed. I mean, that dad of family of four, if he does the hot dogs, the popcorn, and the rest, and he's pushing over $100 for a night, you know what I mean? It's like it's $100, and that's $22.50. 25 years ago, it seems like what the buying power is, but still $100 for a lot of families. That's take two kids and the wife to the game. It's a little bit of money. Just to get them in the door for $100, then you got to buy them everything else. So I don't know. It's a little bit expensive.
We will see. We will see. I know one thing for sure. I cannot afford to go to the Seahawks game this Sunday.
What's that running?
$1,400 for the cheapest.
Wow. Okay. That's pretty good.
So I'll be watching it here at the Florentino household.
I think I'm just gonna go to one of the bars around Lumen Field and just try and soak up the atmosphere if I can get my wife to go out.
Well, you'll probably be 117% Seahawks fans there, I'm sure, right?
I would imagine. Well, I mean,
think any bad people will show up?
Rams
on the other side.
Rams fans, I think so. I mean, there are a lot of Niners fans.
Yeah, you're on the same coast, but that's a pretty good ways away. But yeah, there's probably some Ram fans, transplants that are there. That
I mean, I wear my Saints gear all the time, and got a lot of who dat today, so that was kind of nice. I don't usually expect that when I'm walking around. There's other things.
When you're wearing the Saints gear, you're not catching a lot of heat from people. They're actually kind of giving you a little bit of love there.
Because it's not a real rival, so,
right?
So
I mean, you do know you're not scary to them. You're not doing any harm.
I'm 5'8" with a pot belly. I'm not scary to anybody.
I know, but I'm saying your Saints thing.
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of you don't go through the street. You don't go through the Bronx with the Red Sox stuff. You just don't do that.
I would not. No,
you better not.
I'm gonna say, Gill, did you ever see anybody in your experiences growing up in New York? Did you see anybody wearing any Red Sox stuff up there? Probably not.
Maybe in the stadium, yes. In the stadium, yes. You get.
Oh yeah. Okay.
You just have fun, man. It's going back in the days, to go to bleachers in Yankee Stadium, man, and the Bronx. That was fun, man. That was fun. It was just the cheap seat was what you had to party in there. Yeah, you had a skull for here and there, but it was like just when we went to see the Yankees play the Red Sox in Boston. It wasn't really too much of a welcoming place, but we had fun. We enjoyed the game.
Well, that's the beauty of America. I mean, honest to God, I would think that. I've been in different cities and stadiums and all. And, growing up as a kid, I'm a Redskins fan. I hated the Cowboys. But then eventually, as you kind of grow up, you realize it's a wonderful thing that the rivalry exists. So, like, if you're a Yankee, I love Yankee fans. I love the Yankees. And I'm a Sox fan. But I love it because there's a history.
Especially me, right? Especially me, right?
Oh, yeah. I love you more than anybody. You know that. But what I'm saying is, we're brothers, and we're brothers in so many different ways. But yeah, if we're going to sit and watch a Red Sox Yankees game, we're going to love the fact that these two teams exist with their rich history and all the rest. That's it. That's all it is. You're going to sit, you're going to watch the game. And again, I don't even know who all the Red Sox are anymore. So what am I going to say, right? I don't know who they are. But hey, those 2000s, the 2003, you know what happened to us, 2004, you know what happened to you. But man, that's history, brother. That's like big history. And that'll never be, I don't know if there'll ever be anything quite like that again. For me.
That was crazy, though. That was crazy. Even 2003 too. Even 2003 too, though.
Oh, sure. The fact that Boone did, that's what I'm saying. The Pedro's out there and Grady Little loses his job over it, which I've known guys that, I will say this, I've known a bunch of guys that played in the organization, like with the Braves when he was managing. He managed in Richmond. Every player I've ever talked to loved him. That he was the best guy that they ever played with or for.
Quick, so, I know we're running out of time, but quick story.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I talked to Jesus Martinez, and he said, "Hey," I said, did you talk to Petey and see what happened when he came to the mound?" And he said, "You okay?" And Pedro's never gonna say.
He's not going to say no.
Yeah, he's never going to come out of the game. It's, but I use this in Copa America still to this day. Sometimes you have to protect your players, even if it means from them, and you have to do that. But at the end of the day, like I said, it needed to happen the way it did.
He was old school
for you guys, so But Pedro told him flat out he was going to come out. So.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. Little was old school. So even if he takes the bullet and gets fired, which he did, he's never going to throw Pedro under the bus, which I never heard him do.
No,
he's going to go out there and say, you got it. And him being the competitor he is, yeah, Skip, I still got it. Okay, you're the man then. I'm going to leave you out. And that's just the respect between them. And if he ends up losing his job over it, because some analytics guy said he should have been pulled out after that many pitches, he's going to wear it because he's a baseball guy. But he went out and asked this guy. And of course, you're right. There's no way that Martinez is going to say, "I'm."
No, he wasn't coming out.
Hell no. All right, Kirk.
All right. No, I love this.
There's our little run there.
No, I'm kidding. I love this stuff. Well, gentlemen, I think
there's just a little run there we have. Yeah. Oh, sorry about that.
We'll do runs all the time. Actually, when we were talking last time, I said to you, I love when we're talking because I know what the topic's going to start off with, but I never know how it's going to end.
Don't know where it's going to go.
And I just enjoy the ride. Love it. So with that, gentlemen, I believe this brings episode 2 to a close. Hopefully we'll be doing this very quickly, depending on what happens in the news and around baseball. In the meantime, check out everything else that we're doing here at notinhallofame.com. And of course, the United States Athletic Hall of Fame. We're going to have our new ballot up very, very soon, www.theusahof.com. Gil's going to be a part of it. Jack's going to be a part of it. They're going to be getting their ballots today. Who will they vote for? I won't tell you. If they want to tell you later, they can. But it's not who they're putting into the Hall of Fame. It's who they're putting on the ballot so that you can put them into the Hall of Fame. You see, this is the only ballot for the people, by the people. And we're going to tell you how everyone finishes. We don't like to hurt people's feelings, but sometimes you got to do it. With that, wherever you are, wherever you may be, make today count because it never comes again. Take care, everybody.
Take care.